Happy Saturday. This is Frank Rock. This is the House of Orange Sports Channel. The Tennessee Volunteers last night concluded scrimmage number one. 2 weeks of spring practice, pretty much in the books. So let's get some takeaways on this. Some of the takeaways last night from based on what I've seen, I've looked on intel from 24/7 and from VolQuest, and basically the consensus I've taken away. The defense did win the night, but there's some things that went into that as to why the defense did in the night. And, when you talk about who was out there, who was not, that's the big thing. Both sides did have guys out. You had possibly 3/5 of your offensive line not playing last night. You had Dylan Sampson not playing. On the other hand, you had Keenan Pili was out. You had Arion Carter was out. You had numerous guys who were out last night. You had numerous wide receivers who were out. It was pretty much down to 4 guys. So, it was said that I've seen where Nico threw, I think, at least one interception last night. Jacoby Thomas had a couple interceptions. I saw that. And I say saw that. I read that, I guess. I didn't actually see it. But for me last night, I mean, the fact that Nico was able to generate some stuff, he and Ethan Davis hooked up on one touchdown. And if I'm not mistaken, I was reading where they would have had another big play, maybe even a touchdown that was called back because of a penalty. Josh Heupel alluded to the penalties, but 3/5 of your offensive line is out, and you're going against one of, if not the best defensive line in the nation. What I liked is this defensive line went against this unmanned or this, undermanned offensive line and gave them a lot of trouble last night as well. Now, on the flip side, we saw this in the bowl game last year against Iowa, as that was the most thrown together offensive line that I can remember at Tennessee. So if we get some injuries, Tennessee could be in some trouble. Now, you had Larry Johnson, left tackle. You had Lampley, left guard. Cooper Mays, Javonte Spraggins, Dane Davis. 3 of those 5, I think we'll be all right with in terms of Lampley, Mays, Spraggins. I'm good with Dane Davis playing inside. At tackle, I don't need to see him there. I don't think it's his position. I know they're doing what they can there. I don't know much about Larry Johnson. I've heard he's worked hard. He's earned a role. But the biggest thing for Tennessee, when they get a chance against Chattanooga, you need to get these young guys in, get them some reps, and get them going. And I didn't see much about the younger guys on the offensive line last night. But, the good thing, too, if you're this offensive line, look at what you're going at each day. It's like last year in basketball, I was alluding to with Dalton Connect going against Jemiah Mashak every day. He's going against the best defensive player in the nation each day to help make him better. Connect, that is. If this offensive line is going against possibly the best defensive line in the nation to help hopefully make them better when it comes down to it. But the fact that Josh Heupel talked very high about the secondary, that gives me a lot of confidence that the secondary is doing its thing. Now, one talking point was Christian Harrison started at star over Boo Carter. 24/7 Sports Patrick Brown, in their article on there, he said that I don't think any of the reporters were actually in to see it. They're based off of sources, but he's saying based on what he heard, Boo Carter did outplay Christian Harrison. I don't think that's that big of a deal because we all have high hopes for Boo Carter. If Christian Harrison is making that good of strides, that's a good thing. Now, is that a case of Tim Banks playing the older guy, or what is it? I don't know. I mean, you got to think with Christian Harrison, he has some pretty good genes. His dad is a Hall of Famer, Rodney Harrison. He was a bad dude when he played. So, that encourages me a little if he's in there, but I don't know if it's a case of he's moved up that much or they're just playing the older guy, because we know Tim Banks likes to play the veteran guy. So what I like is we're hearing good things about the secondary, and that to me is a big concern. Keenan Pili, Arion Carter out last night of the lineup. Jeremiah Lander, Caleb Perry. So that means they got a lot of reps last night. That means your younger guys behind them got a lot of reps. I think it was Smith and Spillman is who I saw were the second team linebackers last night. So you're building depth at that position when you're predominantly go play 2 linebackers, because they play in the nickel package a lot. Your safeties, I mean, it's kind of looking like Andre Turrentine and Will Brooks, walk on 5th-year guy. Cornerbacks, it's looking like McCoy, the Oregon State transfer, and Ricky Gibson. I've not heard a lot about Ricky Gibson, and I think that's a good thing. That means he's not out here getting burned. Is he making plays? They said there were numerous pass deflections last night in that secondary. So I like that. That to me is big. I saw where Jordan Matthews said he had a good scrimmage as well. Jacoby Thomas, I mentioned him with a couple interceptions, said he played a good scrimmage last night as well. There was one instance they said James Pierce, I think it was Dane Davis, made him look really bad. Now, I don't fault Dane Davis for that. You're going against maybe the best defensive end of college football. It was said James Pierce, Joshua Josephs, Caleb Herring all had really good scrimmages. This defensive line, especially that position, is so deep. I'm really interested to see the packages that they run in games this fall, being able to get all these guys on the field along with the group of tackles and stuff that they have as well, and guys they have as well, not and stuff. But what I liked about it too, what I also liked is they said Deshaun Bishop had a good scrimmage last night. Cam Seldon did not play; he's still a little bit limited. Dylan Sampson was held out. I don't much blame them, even though I think at some point you're going to have to get him some work in. But Deshaun Bishop had a good night. Josh Heupel was very complimentary of him. From what I'm reading it, the way I'm reading it, he is ahead of Peyton Lewis right now. They said Peyton Lewis did a nice job, but said there are some runs that he'll want to have back, basically is how I read it. Ethan Davis seems to be the guy to me. Seems to me that all the tight ends are standing out. Ethan Davis last night, but it also said Holden Stays, Kittlesman both had good nights, did their job as well. The receivers, I mean, the talk continues to be Brew McCoy didn't scrimmage last night. Dante Thornton didn't. Mike Matthews, Braylon Staley did not as well. Chris Brazzell continues to be talked about. Chaz Nimrod, Caleb Webb. I still think a guy talking. I'm going to talk about this Monday night live show. I think I'm going to have it's not a player, a guy. It's actually a former student of mine, college student. He's very well good in this. I think I'm going to have my first guest come on with me, talk some football Monday night, and just waiting to confirm that with him. He said he's good. Just need to confirm it. So I have somebody on here to talk some football with me Monday night. Should be a lot of fun. But I want to talk underrated guys, under the radar guys. I'm telling you, I think Squirrel White's still flying under the radar. There's not been a lot of talk about him. And I don't think that's necessary so much. He's not done anything. He's not been doing good things. I think other guys have been doing good things. But I'm telling you, when the lights come on, Squirrel White's still going to be a very big factor in this offense. So those 4 guys last night were getting the majority of the reps. But it's also positive to me that Nathan Leacock, they said, is starting to come on. He's starting to – his hands are getting better. He's put in a lot of work. He's starting to work. I don't know if he's a factor this fall, but he's starting to now look like a factor moving forward. If not this year, at some point in the near future as well, because you will lose some guys after this season. To me, what I'm concerned about, that's the depth on the offensive line. If John Campbell, if Carrick, now I don't know with Carrick Lampley, I don't know your difference on that one, but Lance Hurd, specifically to me, those 2 tackles. And what happens if Cooper Mays goes down? Who's the backup center? That offensive line depth concerns me. The front line depth, I think, will be good. You get into injuries, and you've got to expect them at some point on that offensive line. I'm concerned. I am concerned about that depth there. I don't know that I'm still the secondary. I've got to see it in a game. Game number 2 against NC State, they're going to get a test. Joshua Josephs made the comment this week, nobody's stopping us on D. I love it. I love the confidence. Now you got to go out and back it up. That defensive line, if they're allowed to play, if we don't get into those games like Alabama last year where Alabama's holding them on every play and getting away with it and not having a single penalty, this defensive line is going to do their thing. So I like that. I like, I'm liking a lot on this team. My big concern is offensive line depth. Secondary, I've still got concerns about the secondary. I still have concerns. I'm thinking that's a work in progress. Here's the best thing that can help that secondary. That's for that defensive line to live up to its billing. If it does, that does not leave this secondary out on an island to defend itself all the time, because if you leave them out on an island, even good secondaries, if your defensive line doesn't do their job, it's going to make a good secondary's job harder. The fact that T-Lander, Perry, these guys are getting reps. Pilley, Arion Carter. Pilley, we know, is first-team linebacker. Based on what I'm thinking and reading, it's Arion Carter as the second linebacker. But the fact that T-Lander, Perry, these guys, I think they're building some nice depth in here. William Inn's job's going to be continue coaching them up, getting ready, bringing them along. And then, what do I want to see moving forward? Just progression. Keep your main guys healthy. Based on what I've seen, it seems they come out of last night's pretty healthy. I mean, obviously, we've had the Jordan Thomas injury, but that was, Josh Heupel said, non-football related. That was before the scrimmage, so we knew going in. See progression out of Boo Carter. They said Boo's not afraid to get physical. The mental game. That's what I speculated on when I did the video when he's taking over for Jordan Thomas. Is it the mental game? That's what's going to get him into the lineup. That's why Tim Banks likes to play the older guys over the younger, because they have the mental aspect of it down. At some point, to me, I think ability has to win out over knowing it. If, a guy knows the system and can't make a play, you got to put a guy in who can make a play and live with a little bit of those mental mistakes on it. That may not make any sense. To me, it does. At some point, you got to put ability over knowledge of it. I mean, that just is what it is. We didn't hear much about the return game last night. Mike Eckler has always had a pretty solid return game. I think we'll be good there. Depth behind running back does concern me. I want to see him continue to build that depth. I want to see Peyton Lewis take those steps. To me, a big thing is getting Cam Seldon healthy and getting him out there. Dylan Sampson is going to have a huge year as long as he stays healthy. To me, the biggest guy behind him to go is Cam Seldon. I think Cam Seldon's got a lot of potential as well. And then these wide receivers, Josh Heupel's they've termed it as the deepest receiving core since they have been there. Get these guys healthy. Just getting them all healthy. That's, other than depth, health is the concern for me. I'm still excited, man. That coach's poll at 15, I think that's a good number for Tennessee. I think it's, I think they're ranked a lot lower than they should be. But that's also, hey, that's a chip on the shoulder. Go out and prove it. Poll as well. Those types of rankings always seem to work out better for Tennessee, other than they're like, anytime in any sport feels like they're top 5, they fall on their face. When they're around this ranking, that 10 to 15, they seem to thrive a little more. You think about the baseball team this year, they were in the latter part of the top 10 in most polls preseason. Some of them had them outside of it. Look how that played out. I expect similar things to this team as well. I'm still sticking 11-1. Now, that could change with injury, but what they're doing, what they're saying, there's a lot of hype around people covering it right now. The coaches are speaking highly of this team. I'm fired up. I'm excited for it as well. We'll talk more about it on Monday night. I'll bring any videos from the weekend as well. Monday night, 7 o'clock, I'll be live on here. Big thing for Tennessee football, obviously, practices leading up to this week. Can't remember when the next scrimmage is. Talk about that post-scrimmage. David Sanders Jr. announces next Saturday. From what I've seen, around 12:30, the crystal ball projections are coming into this Tennessee. It's how we've speculated during this time, and I'm contemplating with the idea of going live during that announcement next week. I'll have some videos on that as the week goes along as well. And then, any kind of basketball, Lady Vols basketball, baseball news to pass along, I'll pass that along as well. Hope you have a great rest of your Saturday. Membership tiers, they are available. If you're interested in that, hit the join button to see what's available in each tier. Patreon for the channel, $1 a month. That's linked at the end of the video here, or in the video description. And if you want to say thanks, there's a super thanks down the bottom right-hand corner as well. All of it does go to help support the channel as well. Frank Rock, House of Orange Sports Channel. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And last but most certainly not least, go Vols.